I'd like to echo the sentiments for George Floyd. What a horrific situation for our country to be placed in. And I stand before you a black man first. I'm black and blue. I've been doing this career for 27 years and I'm proud of my profession. Doesn't mean we get it right all the time. Does not mean we get it right all the time. But let's talk about those things at a later time and collab with one another about how we can move forward to continue the great things that is going on in this community in Kalamazoo. As Chief Thomas said, I'm here to give you some specifics that occurred last night. And I'm going to start with that intel. And we did have credible intelligence that we had agitators that were coming from out of this state, out of our city, out of our community, in order to get our community to be like other communities. We reached out to community leaders within our community in order to avoid those types of situations. But that intel proved to be true, that folk came from out of town. You name the state, you name the city, they came to be agitators. Earlier in the day, we did have great peaceful protests. People kneeling and laying for Mr. Floyd in our community. And I was proud and prideful of that. But later in the day, we did have situations where that turned to a different situation. And the agitators became louder, boisterous in the community, in our intersection downtown, and began to throw rocks and things of that nature at police. We had a group engaged in a location in our community with vehicles that started out with about 50, that emerged to be over 500 vehicles that went throughout the community, or the county of Kalamazoo. In my opinion, and I have to give you that, searching for something to do. They started out from here, went to Comstock, came back in our community. They splintered off. A group went to Oshkosh Township and did damage there. We were able to get there and get resources there so that did not occur. We still want peaceful protest. And for the community to heal, they must express themselves. We understand that. But as has been explained by Chief Thomas, there was an attempt to loot business in that community. That group then came back into Kalamazoo downtown, where they met up with other groups. Then there were over 500 plus cars in our community in the downtown area, where traffic control was at its best awful. Those in that group began to do traffic control for the vehicles that was in this group. Exhibition driving, that's speed. Screeching of tires, cutting people off. In a large group that can be dangerous, or in one vehicle that can be dangerous. Eventually there was a group that settled into downtown, began to protest in our community again, along with those vehicles, and they continued to be in the downtown area. Those groups began to outnumber law enforcement 50 to 1. Our tools, our resources were being deployed, react teams, in order to move crowds along because they began to be violent toward law enforcement. And again, I spoke on rocks and bottles, assaultive behaviors, breaking businesses, windows in our downtown community. We did deploy gas, and we deployed chemical spray.
Let him speak. Let him speak, man. Come on.
Hold it down, folks. Hold it down. Hold it down, folks.
Several announcements were made prior to the chemical spray and gas being deployed to leave this area. Downtown, to leave the downtown area, a police line had been made, had been established in our community. Those groups, and I mean several groups, did not adhere to those warnings. The looting began on our downtown businesses, along with destruction in our community, in our businesses. And all our resources were directed into our community in the downtown. And I did ask Chief Thomas to give us, our community, more resources. Because this isn't Kalamazoo. This is not Kalamazoo today. I used our resources in order to move crowds to get them to go home, so we can have a peaceful night and have those communications in our community moving forward so we can heal. But we have to start somewhere, and damaging and tearing up what we built doesn't make it happen. I'm going to briefly touch on what has been seen on social media of a group of protesters that laid in front of a REACT team. What you didn't see, what preceded that, was that we chased, and I'm going to use that vernacular, our men and women in law enforcement, here at Public Safety, and our partners, literally had to chase that group throughout the downtown community as they destroyed property and attempted to loot. And again, I remind you, we were outnumbered 50-1. That particular group finally laid down in front or near the county courthouse. Yes, they did. Our tools and our resources are short to mitigate situations very quickly, very fast. So our citizens and our visitors of our great community are not injured, and our law enforcement officers too, because they're doing the great work every day. They respond to the actions of our community. That chem spray was laid down in front of that group, and it did what it was intended to do, and that was to move that group out of the downtown area. And finally, for that group, it had success. It moved the group. That group was no longer in the community, but there were others. And we continue to have to do and move to each group. And as Chief Thomas spoke, about 3:30 in the morning, we had peace of some sort in our community in the downtown, where we regained the ability to have peace. But our work wasn't done. We had citizens come up to us who thanked us, and we thanked them. And I must say, even the agitators, we spoke to them and asked for them to leave and go home or go somewhere, because this was not the place at this time, at this date. So community, it does start today. It started yesterday. Let's continue to work together. I hope to see you at your neighborhood association. I hope to see you at the city commissions. We're at a point. We're at a fork in the road, and it's a big fork. Let's continue to work together. Let's not stop today. Mr. Floyd needs to be the last one. And I say that not with a badge of honor. I'm angry at what I saw 4 law enforcement officers do who wore my uniform. Because that's not what a million and one officers in this United States does every day. Do we have our problems? Do we have our issues? Absolutely. But let's work together. Let's bring it in. Team, let's bring it in. I continue to go on, but let's do it another day. Let's get together, community. Thank you.